The internet can be a very demanding place. Everyone has their own idea of how something should be done and what the next step should look like, and with so many voices screaming into the endless void, it can be a little tricky to know who to listen to. Clearly you need to listen to me then, because I have a fancy accent and a way with words that will convince you that certain games don't need sequels despite our innate ability to suggest and often demand that video games churn out second albums as soon as possible. A great successful game will always have the looming shadow of a sequel in its future, but I don't think it should be any kind of automatic process by any means, and actually, you'd be surprised how well a game can stand up on its own without the inevitability of a sequel. There are other ways of making games exciting, you know.
I'll give it to you that sequels work well as an overflow of ideas that can't be contained within one video game, but I think I should earmark some games that can survive on their own. That is possible. It's a thing that has happened before. Much like a sleek front pocket wallet that can survive on its own, and also a ruthless selection of attacks from a chainsaw. It could only be today's sponsors, the Ridge wallet, that is my choice over any kind of, chunky leather monstrosity. It's like the sequel that really needed to happen.
Given how advanced we're making all of our things these days, it's a bit strange how little wallet-making technology has progressed over the years. We've got phones that can do crazy things, but wallets are still leather and heavy and too big for our pockets. Luckily, Ridge is here to help out with their sturdy wallets that can hold up to 12 cards with extra room for cash, and with more than 30 colours and styles to choose from, you're very likely to find something that suits your tastes. Plus, Ridge were kind enough to send me one of their waterproof commuter backpacks with a shock-resistant laptop holder and an external USB port for on-the-go charging. Honestly, once I start going on public transport again, I'm definitely using this as much as possible. Ridge comes with a lifetime warranty, so you can buy one wallet for the rest of your life if you like, with a 45-day return window for a free refund if you're not such a fan. Get 10% off today with free worldwide shipping and returns by going to ridge.com/RabbidLuigi and using the code RabbidLuigi. It's time to move your wallet into the future.
Okay then, guess we need to crush some dreams today.
So it's worth saying right out of the gate that a sequel for any one of these games wouldn't be a deal breaker. I fully accept that video game devs need to gravitate towards the money-spinning ideas for the safety of their jobs and keeping fans happy, but sometimes the sequels that would print all the money aren't such a great idea conceptually. I know for a fact that if you announced Bloodborne 2 as part of the PS5's launch titles, there'd be hordes of people foaming at the mouth in excitement, since that first game was one of the best single-player experiences of the last decade. Although, then Bloodborne 2 would be reigning on the Demon's Souls remakes parade, and that game deserves more time in the limelight. If anything, the fact that Demon's Souls is getting a remake is indicative of why Bloodborne 2 can't happen. From Software have different priorities.
I appreciate that From Software is allowing themselves to do something a bit more fun and, express themselves creatively outside of the usual castles and dragons of Dark Souls, but it took me until Sekiro of last year to appreciate how much fun they have in doing these kind of games. They are this kind of spin-offs that just allow them to go wild with ideas. That doesn't mean that these spin-offs will get sequels though, because, then that would make them less unique.
I'm not sure if I mentioned it yet, but don't take my wish that a game doesn't get a sequel for me thinking that that game doesn't deserve a sequel. Bloodborne is bursting at the seams of fascinating lore and creative level design and more than a fair heaping of outstanding atmosphere, but I think From Software would be better off creating something new instead of reheating Bloodborne. Even if it is arguably the best game they've ever made, I feel like Bloodborne would lose a bit of what makes it this creative spin-off title if all of its qualities had to be stretched out for a sequel. Maybe it'd end up like Super Mario Galaxy, where the sequel was simply an overflow of ideas that didn't quite make it into the first game, but my concern there would be that the sequel is getting the leftover table scraps that aren't quite as well put together as the first game. I doubt it would feel as good to play. Sekiro has given me some hope that From Software are using their spin-offs to bend their own formulas and draft out ideas for potential future Dark Souls games, so maybe instead of another adventure through feudal Japan or a gothic city that may or may not be some kind of dream, they do something wildly different instead. Set it in space, or in the Old West, and see what kind of crazy Souls experience they can conjure up. Keep the creature design weird though. It always gives me life. very bold to suggest that any long-running franchise should stop churning out sequels. Give any franchise long enough to establish itself as a mainstay, and the idea of not making any more of that type of game sounds more and more like a bad decision to be making, but I suppose you'd only think this way if you had never seen one of my videos before and were unaware of my infatuation with Spec Ops: The Line. Yeah, I know there's other games I could be talking about, but this topic lets me mention something I rarely get to discuss, and fuck if I'm not going to take that opportunity. This game is significant enough to act as shorthand for the entire series, and when every other game came out between 1998 and 2002, that'll probably be why. It only gained this status as such an important game within its own franchise because it's a reboot 10 years after the last game and completely different to those early directionless titles, but the cost of trying something so different with The Line is like a masterclass in diminishing returns. Works really well the first time, but not worth it after that. I doubt many of you watching at home are oblivious to Spec Ops: The Line's haunting qualities, but this is a game that can only be made once. The entire premise of The Line is to draw in fans of traditionally satisfying third-person cover shooters with promises of faceless hordes of bad guys to gun down, only to sweep the rug out from underneath them with the startling realization that you're actually killing innocent people and your playable protagonist lost their grip on reality a long way back. It's a game that tackles the horrors of war head on, and yet it relies on a key feature that other more conventional horror games have in abundance: the element of surprise. Spec Ops: The Line works so well because no one saw this turn coming from an otherwise fairly bland shooter game, but now its cover is blown, you couldn't possibly make a sequel to this. What would you even do? This game isn't even close to the same once you've had the big twist spoiled for you, and if you were to play a new game that, trying to hide its true intention behind the facade of normalcy, it just wouldn't be the same. Spec Ops: The Line was a one and done kind of game, and I wouldn't expect anything like it for a while. Not just because it's been 8 years since it first came out, but because developer Jaeger have said before that sequels were never part of the conversation with publisher 2K Games, and a number of people who worked on the game have said that they want to make something a little lighter next time. I don't blame them, I'd rather not have to burn civilians again anytime soon. It's best to quit when you're so far behind that you're actually ahead.
Just how many indie games get sequels, do you reckon? I imagine not many, because most indie devs are pretty content with getting all their ideas out in one video game. There's no guarantee that any idea is going to take off, so you do it all in one game, you take your chance, you put it all in that. But some indie games out there have gotten some pretty damn tasty sequels for every game.
It's a tricky argument to make with indie games, because while there's plenty of standalone titles that function perfectly well without the need for sequels to bolster their reputation and sales figures like Cave Story and Stardew Valley, a well-made sequel has proven to work really well in the past for the momentum of the first game, as seen with the likes of Super Meat Boy and Undertale. So basically, there's no one-size-fits-all rule for indie games, and you have to take it one game at a time, but that's fine by me, because as far as indie games go, there aren't many in the same vein as Celeste. In more ways than one, since it tells a story so unique and so finalized by the end that any sequel would be retreading the same ground and feel unnecessarily derivative, but also, Celeste is kinda perfect as it is. Is there any point in making a sequel to one of the best indie games of all time? I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen? Other than tainting a good thing with an unnecessary sequel, I suppose not much. Just depends on if you can live with it. Celeste has a simple but incredibly effective arc for its main character that feeds into the whole metaphor of conquering and climbing a literal mountain to overcome your demons, and while the B and C sides add some extra replayability that fits nicely alongside the Farewell expansion pack that adds even more crushingly difficult levels that wring the last speck of creativity out of this style of platforming, there's nothing left to do with this game. Celeste can't have a sequel, not just because of how neatly everything got wrapped up in its story, but because there's nowhere else you could take this. Apart from just making more levels or making changes so radical that the core components are lost amid the additions, but honestly what needs to happen most of all is for Maddie Thorson and their team of artists and Lena Raine on the soundtrack to make something new. Safe to say that these guys can make a pretty decent game if it's Game of the Year nomination at the 2018 Game Awards or anything to go by. Just make more of the same, but not quite the same. I'm sure they'll find a way. It's stands to reason that sequels are made because of money. Yeah, sure, artistic investment and genuinely wanting to tell a new story in the same universe are both very valid, but the bottom line is almost always profit and churning out those chunky sales figures. Yes, I'm cynical, but I feel like you have to be at least a little bit cynical these days, otherwise the relentless pace of the games industry will run you down and leave you wondering if there was anything we could have done to avoid a stupid sequel to a game that doesn't need it. Most games these days are updated with patches and extra content if required, and if Among Us can avoid making a sequel by simply bolting more stuff onto the original game, then so can most games out there. I doubt there was ever a time when a sequel to Minecraft was on the cards, but now that Microsoft have their hands on the property and have been supporting it so well over the past 6 years, I have even more confidence that nothing would ever come of this. If Minecraft is so great, why isn't there a Minecraft 2? Microsoft have a lot of money, I reckon they could throw enough at it and make something happen.
It is a wild idea to suggest even the vaguest possibility of a sequel to Minecraft, because there's so much more to this game than just a quirky little indie game, because it's the best-selling video game of all time and has helped to inspire so many other games with its crafting and building mechanics. So the idea that a game this popular, that is still being supported and has such a force behind it, even needs a sequel? No. It's like trying to get a sequel to Tetris.
Which I fully accept will be a worthy contender for this video, but in the end I thought it'd be best if I talked about only one of the highest selling games ever made, just for a bit of variety. Minecraft's quality and popularity came in clearly defined phases, since it hasn't always been operating at its absolute peak for either, and has benefited a lot from being sold to Microsoft. Therefore, it's hard for me to say that there was never a need for a sequel, but given where we are now, with Minecraft receiving major updates every year and being popular enough to overtake Fortnite in some circles, and squeeze its way into Smash Bros somehow, I reckon a sequel is completely unnecessary now. Even if they did make one, can you honestly say what changes could be made that are major enough to warrant releasing a new game that couldn't be done within the existing framework of Minecraft? What, you want shifting environments and dynamic weather on the title screen to feature a reminder that if you're enjoying this video and want to see more, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications of every new upload. Much like Spec Ops, the people at the top of the chain have been quick to dismiss any realistic possibility of Minecraft 2. And frankly, that tends to scupper most chances of games getting made. As long as Minecraft continues to be supported and continues to be played by millions of people every day, I don't think anyone's going to care about any kind of sequel. Except maybe Minecraft Dungeons, but come on, it's not a sequel. Not sure what to call it, but it sure ain't Minecraft. There's only one game like that around these parts. Predicting what Nintendo's next move is likely to be has never been easy. We all knew that their next console after the Wii U was gonna be something strange, but without insider knowledge, who could have predicted the Switch and all the success that it brought Nintendo after such an awkward, uncertain period in their history? I don't know, but clearly Nintendo had faith in their creation considering the caliber of games they put on the console, since it's an incredible vote of confidence to launch with an amazing new Zelda game and release a new 3D Mario game shortly after, but it's something altogether more ridiculous putting as much effort into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as they did. Yeah, it's a new Smash Bros. Game, so you'd expect at least a base level of effort, but I'm not sure I can put into words just how extra this game is. With a cast of characters this extensive, Nintendo have backed themselves into a corner somewhat that they can't easily get out of, and surely this is the last Smash Bros. Game? It has to be, because why else would Nintendo include every previous character in the roster, or unfold their wish list of third-party DLC reps? But rather than Ultimate signaling the end of Smash Bros. As some kind of bittersweet swan song, I think Nintendo need to go down a different road. The League of Legends road. I know, sounds weird and scary, and that's okay because I wouldn't want to compare too many games to League of Legends at the best of times, but I really do think Nintendo would be better off adding and tweaking Ultimate instead of eventually putting their focus on a brand new Smash Bros. Game. They've outdone themselves by making Ultimate bigger and better than any previous game in the series, and since we're never likely to have a roster this gigantic again, why not just keep the patches coming and maybe a new character every year or two? One day the Switch will wither and die and Nintendo will have to think hard about what they want their next console to do and look like, so maybe there could be a chance for a new Smash Bros. Game if they end up with some fancy tech, but why not port it over instead? Become a World of Warcraft or an Apex Legends or hell, maybe even a Fortnite. Just not an Overwatch because they're making a sequel to that one because Blizzard are dicks to Hong Kong. Try not to be like Blizzard.
This is RabbidLuigi, and something that most ongoing video games have in common is a thriving competitive scene and a skill ceiling that is high enough to encourage elite play, but also seemingly attainable enough for someone to get close to being amazing if they practice hard enough. Smash Bros. Ultimate has both of these in abundance, and if Nintendo really wants to, it could be around for the next decade. Just look at Mario Kart 8. That game has been around for 6 years and has changed not a lot. It's got some DLC, but, you know, not much different. You never know. If it's around long enough, maybe all those pedophiles could get arrested.
A quick thank you to my top supporters on Patreon. We have La Cookie Queen, Ramon Alberto, Stefan Wode, Jerome Curiew, I think, Fusion Warrior, Sarah Malion, Christopher Robinson, Joe Creamer, M Phoenix, and Scott Riker. Thank you all for your incredible support, and if you want to be a part of that, you can go to patreon.com/RabbidLuigi, where I post things and read out your username at the end of the video, so that's fun. And also, what topic would you like to see me cover next? Leave your suggestion in a comment on this video because I'll be taking the best ideas and making a poll on my community tab, which you can then vote on to decide what the next video is about. I'll be announcing the winner of the poll over on my Twitter, so make sure you follow me so you don't miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.